Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Black Hole. In the face of war, occupation, displacement, unbearable pain, and unimaginable loss, the voices of Palestinian women echo with resilience, memory, and unwavering hope. In today's session, we are going to hear from two women from Gaza, now living in exile, Nadia Abu Shaban and Shireen Sabah, who will share their lived experiences of survival, identity, and resistance. And we hope to understand about the human cost of occupation and the enduring strength of those forced to leave home, yet never forget it. I'm very thankful to Sarmad Hasan. He's standing on my right, who will moderate today's session. Sarmad Hasan is a documentary filmmaker, having masters in politics of conflict, rights and justice from स्वास यूनिवर्सिटी लंदन. आप लोगों की आमद का बहुत शुक्रिया. थोड़ी सी जहमत करके प्लीज़ स्विच कर दें अपने सेल फोन्स टू साइलेंट मोड सो दैट देयर इज़ नो डिस्ट्रैक्शन. सरमद अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन देंगे, अपनी डॉक्यूमेंट्री में से कुछ क्लिप्स चलाएंगे. उसके बाद हम जूम पे फ़लस्तीन से हमारी जो दो ख़वातीन हैं उनको ज्वाइन करेंगे, नादिया एंड शीरीन को. फिर बाहमी गुफ्तगू के बाद जैसा कि यहाँ की रवायत हाउस ओपन हो जाएगा फॉर Q&A. जब वो मरला है तो बस आप अपना हाथ बुलंद कीजिएगा ताकि ये माइक्रोफोन आपके सुपुर्द कर दिया जाए. फिर आप जो है अपना सवाल या जो भी आपके सेंटिमेंट्स हैं रिगार्डिंग गाज़ा क्राइसिस आप ज़रूर वो शेयर कीजिएगा. शॉर्ट और टू द पॉइंट रहिएगा ताकि गुफ्तगू हमारे बुनियादी मौजू पर ही रहे और ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा दोस्त जो हैं इस मुकालमे का हिस्सा बन सके. तो चलिए अब मैं स्टेज को सुपुर्द करता हूँ सरमद हसन के. प्लीज़ वेलकम our guest from जो हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे जूम पे, एंड सरमद हसन ऑन द स्टेज. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू फाक साहब. जस्ट अ क्विक इंट्रोडक्शन थोड़ा सा बिफोर हम ज़रा डीप डाइव करें सब्जेक्ट मैटर के अंदर. मेरा नाम सरमद हसन है और मेरा प्रोफेशनल बैकग्राउंड शायद इतना मैटर नहीं करता, लेकिन जो जर्नी है फ्रॉम जिस तरह का मैं पहले होता था टू नाउ, वो आई थिंक एक रिलेटेबल चीज़ हो सकती है यहाँ पे सब के लिए. तो बीइंग इन पाकिस्तान बिफोर आई लेफ्ट फॉर माय मास्टर्स, डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में काफ़ी काम किया था. उसके अलावा गवर्नमेंट के लिए काफ़ी काम किया था, MNCs के लिए काफ़ी काम किया था सस्टेनेबिलिटी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. बट व्हेन आई वेंट टू द UK टू डू माय मास्टर्स इन पॉलिटिकल साइंस, उसके बिल्कुल कंकरेंटली 2 हफ्ते बाद October 7th हैपेंड. जो हमारी इंस्ट्रक्शन थी वो उसको एक मज़ीद डेप्थ मिल गई थी, क्योंकि जो चीज़ें हम पढ़ रहे थे वही चीज़ें हमें नज़र आ रहा था. मीडिया के अंदर जो फिनोमिनन है वो नज़र आ रहा था, जो लोगों के जज्बात हैं उसमें वो हमें नज़र आ रहा था. सो वी वर लर्निंग ऑन वन एंड वी वर सीइंग ऑन दी अदर कि लोग किस तरह से डिवाइड होते हैं, लोग किस तरह से साथ आते हैं, लोग किस तरह से पॉलिटिकल मोटिव्स के लिए, पॉलिटिकल एंड्स के लिए उनको यूज़ किया जाता है. प्रोपेगेंडा उनके ऊपर जिस तरह से चलता है, जिस तरह इफेक्ट होता है. बाकी ये है कि आई एम गोइंग टू बी प्राइमरली स्पीकिंग इन इंग्लिश, क्योंकि हमारे काफ़ी ज़्यादा फ़लस्तीनी भाई बहन जो हैं वो भी कनेक्ट करेंगे ऑनलाइन, तो उनकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए भी आई विल कम्युनिकेट इन इंग्लिश. कोई भी क्वेश्चंस हों एंड पे देयर इज़ गोइंग टू बी अ स्पेस जहाँ पे आप सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, और उसके ऊपर फिर ऑब्वियसली नादिया, शरीन और एंड माई सेल्फ हम उनके जवाब देंगे. तो बेसिकली ये जो पूरा आइडिया था, दिस आइडिया केम अबाउट क्योंकि दुनिया में जो लेगेसी मीडिया है हमारा वो काफ़ी पोलराइज होता है और वो काफ़ी वन साइडेड स्टोरी बताता है. तो द इंसेप्शन ऑफ दिस आइडिया केम फ्रॉम द नीड कि वी नीड टू प्रेजेंट अ डिफरेंट नैरेटिव, अ नैरेटिव बाय द पीपल ऑफ पैलेस्टाइन अबाउट देयर लिव्ड एक्सपीरियंस. वो किस तरह से उन्होंने एस्केप किया अपनी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जोन को. कॉन्फ्लिक्ट तो बिल्कुल भी हमें कहना नहीं चाहिए. इट इज़ अ जेनोसाइड, प्योर एंड सिंपल. देयर इज़ नो एम्बिगुएशन उसके ऊपर. इट इज़ व्हाट इट इज़ एंड वी सी इट अनफोल्डिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ अस. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ जो हैज़ बिकम वेरी पिवटल इन दिस एंटायर कॉन्वर्सेशन इज़ के द ट्रूथ इज़ आउट देयर फॉर पीपल टू सी. The news media, the way that they report, the way that they talk about the suffering in Palestine, especially the news media of the West, it is approaching the genocide with a certain frame और वो फ्रेम जो होता है, दैट इज़ अ फ्रेम कि दीज पीपल आर barbarians, these people are the ones who started it all, these people are the reason why they are suffering. And indeed, it is not the eyes that are blind, but it is the hearts. And we are seeing this live happening in front of us as time goes on. We are nearing almost 2 years of this conflict, which is presented as a conflict in international media. And the Palestinians, they need our support. And for that, we need to listen to their voices, and we need to share their voices as much as we can as individuals. Next slide, please. So obviously, just to give a bit of a recap, when you are in London as a student and you see these democratic practices where people are free to assemble, you see all kinds of people get, coming together, different race, creeds, religions, for one common cause. और वो common cause जो है वो फ़लस्तीनी suffering है. तो I could see in person 1.3 million people marching under one banner. And I have never seen or witnessed a phenomenon इस scale का अपनी पूरी ज़िंदगी में. I think they're saying कि जो इराक वॉर के टाइम पे लोगों ने प्रोटेस्ट किया था, उससे ज़्यादा लोग अभी आए थे to sort of demonstrate their support and to show that they are in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Next slide, please. So what happened on October the 7th, I think international humanitarian law के तहत जो नॉन कम्बैटेंट्स होते हैं किसी भी साइड पे हों, उनकी जो डेथ होती है, that is unlawful and unjust. What happened on October the 7th was indeed a tragedy committed by Hamas. But as a result of that, what transpired and what has transpired ever since in the 20 months that have passed is nothing short of a catastrophe. इसको नकबा भी उन्होंने कहा हुआ है. There have been 2 Nakbas in the past, and the scale of the current one is unprecedented. For the purported 1,300 people that were killed by Hamas, they have now laid waste to 54,000 Palestinians, most of whom were women and children. Women and children, the category of women and children in the enshrined human rights gives them a special sort of protection when it comes to war. But apparently, those definitions do not apply in this context. Next slide, please. So I remember October the 7th happened, and there were murmurings of Israeli offensive that was going to happen. And we all knew deep down that it was going to transpire into probably some of the worst treatment that the Palestinian people have seen since 50 years ago in the 6-day war. So I remember October 8th से लेके March 3rd तक, I woke up every day and I saw my Instagram feed, जिस तरह आप लोगों ने भी किया, and I wept for I think about 30 to 40 minutes almost every day at everything that was transpiring in the Gaza Strip. And I wept not only because it is a travesty, but because I was so powerless and helpless to do anything. मैं अपनी capacity में as a student being in London कुछ कर नहीं सकता था to make their situation any better. We tried raising money, we followed all of the normal जो रूट्स होते हैं किसी को इमदाद वगैरह पहुंचाने के लिए, लेकिन दैट इज़ ऑब्वियसली नॉट इनफ. जब आपकी एक वेस्टर्न मीडिया एक पूरी जनरेशन को इंडोक्ट्रिनेट कर रही है, तो उसको आप किस तरह से काउंटर एक्ट करते हैं? नेक्स्ट. So that is where my personal journey started. Again, this has very little to do with who I am as a person and more to do with who I used to be and what I became. I finally had the means, alhamdulillah, to do something about what I was feeling and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to change the narrative in my own very small way. And I decided to get a ticket to go to Cairo, where exiled Palestinian community ki taadaad is one of the highest in the world. Because of the Rafah crossing, that's how they come into Cairo, into Egypt, to escape the suffering. And it sort of made sense for me to go there, where I can hear first-hand accounts of what it is like to be Palestinian, what it means to be Palestinian. And that is what I'm hoping to endeavor with the documentary. Next slide, please. So, narratives pe aate hain. There are two narratives that we get to see on mainstream legacy media and also on the ground citizen journalism that is not only coming out of Gaza itself, but also the narratives that are being pushed by pro-Palestinian sympathizers around the world. Pehla narrative jo hai, that can be summed up into the infamous phrase that Piers Morgan loves to say, "Do you condemn Hamas?" And that if they hadn't done this on October the 7th, none of the suffering would have happened in the first place. That is the first sort of frame that we see, and it is repeatedly perpetuated in Western media. और ये frame जो करता है Palestinian experience को, it reduces them to how they call it human animals. There are people जो IDF में काम करते हैं, जो government में काम करते हैं, जिन्होंने on record ये चीज़ कही हुई है कि these people are human animals. जब आप अपने rhetoric में एक पूरी जो ethnicity है उसको reduce कर देते हैं to the realm of being animals, you make it easy for people to see them as such if it's repeated enough times. जब ये repetition एक critical mass को reach करती है तो फिर it becomes shorthand. Human beings के heuristics होते हैं, हमारे shorthands होते हैं जिससे हम we experience the world around us. When something is made and repeatedly sold as the primary narrative, that shorthand is instilled in your mind, even if it's not in your conscious head. Subconsciously आप उसको उस तरह से experience करने लगते हैं. And this can be evidenced by the fact कि West में जो pro-Israeli movement है, उनका rhetoric आप जो protest हैं जिनके interviews हुए हैं उनका rhetoric आप सुने, and it is nothing short of abhorrent. मतलब हमें as Pakistanis, as Muslims, as sympathizers of the Palestinian cause, anybody that you are, if you listen to that rhetoric, आप imagine नहीं कर सकते on the receiving end अगर आप हैं उसके, how that would make you feel, the dehumanization. तो पहला जो the first lens is that of a heavily editorialized Western legacy media narrative, where these institutions are told what catchphrases or what bullet points to use to refer to the conflict and what topics to avoid, what statistics to avoid, and which spokespersons to avoid as well. So that's the first narrative. The second frame is that the Palestinians are suffering and they have no agency. Us as pro-Palestinian people, how have we seen the Palestinian suffering on Instagram or YouTube? We have seen kids who have lost their limbs. We have seen kids who have been shot by snipers in the head or in the chest. We have seen the suffering, the death, despair, and the destruction of the Palestinian, of the Gazan Palestinians especially. And it is through that lens that we experience Palestinian identity. We don't also, because of all of this meaning making that is happening, when we encounter a Palestinian voice, we look at it subconsciously with that lens, that these people need our help and that these people are helpless, these people are hopeless. And the primary purpose for me as a practitioner of the media before I got my education, and then thereafter as somebody who has a slightly deeper understanding of politics, is that we need to keep adding to the narrative so that we can get out of this binary framing of the Palestinian people and we can see who they are as human beings, as people with agency. लोग जो अपना विल पावर इस्तेमाल करके अपनी सिचुएशन के बारे में भी कुछ कर सकते हैं और जो कि दुनिया को भी एक मैसेज, एक पैगाम पहुंचाना चाहते हैं, जो कि प्रो हों या फिर अगेंस्ट हों. तो ये कंपीटिंग नैरेटिव्स हैं जो चल रहे हैं. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. तो डॉक्यूमेंट्री का जो प्राइमरी प्रेमिस है, इट इज़ टू ह्यूमनाइज द डिस्प्लेस्ड पैलेस्टीनियन कम्युनिटी. अब ह्यूमनाइजेशन का मतलब ये है कि जो जिस तरह से हम एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं दुनिया को, जिस तरह से हम फॉर एग्जांपल जुमे वाले दिन एक हमारा पूरा एक रिचुअल होता है. हमारे घर में लोग तैयार होते हैं, जुमा पढ़ने के लिए जाते हैं, फिर उसके बाद इट इज़ द लास्ट डे ऑफ द वीक, सो द फैमिली गेट्स टुगेदर, दे हैव डिनर टुगेदर, And what I wanted to do was show that apart from the extraordinary situation that the Palestinians are in, they are just like us. They have hopes, they have dreams, they have aspirations, and they're just trying to live a very, very normal life. Most Palestinians have nothing to do with any political affiliation. They have no ill will towards any government, even if it is occupying them, because they want to be kept they want to be kept safe, they want their families to be safe, and they want to live a free existence. जो freedom हम enjoy करते हैं on a daily basis, there are levels to it as well. एक पूरी spectrum होती है freedom की. हम जिस level की freedom यहाँ पे enjoy करते हैं, that is still leaps and bounds ahead of the freedom जो फ़लस्तीनी लोग जिससे suffer कर रहे हैं basically, the lack of freedom actually. So that was part of the reason why we wanted to sort of do this. Now, just on the screen, you can see we had 2 interviewees with kids, and they were 7 to 8 years old. And उनसे जब मैं बात कर रहा था, ये मैं आपको ज़रा थोड़ा anecdotally बता देता हूँ. तो I have never met any 7 or 8 year old that had the presence of mind being so cognizant of their environment, of what is happening to them. And that is a very sad reality, because छोटे बच्चे जो होते हैं उनको छोटे बच्चे रहने की इजाज़त नहीं दी जा रही उधर. ये कैंप्स में जा रहे हैं, कैंप्स एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं, और it is a very sad state of affairs that they know about the things that even adults in the West are not supposed to know. And they only know this because they're going through hell. Or at least जो हमारी दुनिया में hell जिस तरह conceptualize हो सकती है. तो that was the primary purpose of doing this endeavor. Next slide, please. So 2 of the interviewees that we had were, you can see Shireen at the top and Nadia. They're going to be joining us. Uske baad a Q&A session bhi hoga. So this is a very short supercut that I had prepared before the actual documentary, because I was also wrangling with this idea that the documentary is going to be released many, many months away, but the message needs to go out now. It needs to go out today, which is why I created the supercut to show to audiences here and the audiences who are joining online कि इन लोगों का perspective क्या है. What is it that they want? What it is that they are trying to achieve or they are trying to tell the world about. So we are going to listen from them now. Yeah, then we'll return for question and answers.
Hi, my name is Nadia Abu Shaban. I'm Palestinian made in Gaza. I mean, everyone left Gaza suffer from the feel of guilt, which is عقدة الناجي in Arabic. So why I'm telling you this? Because when you left your home by being forced again, you left it when it's already under attacks. For me, I was totally under the rubble one day, and they got me out of it, and I'm alive now. So you became like thinking that, okay, someone else will experience this. Someone else under the rubble now, you might be dead, you might not. So when you are out, you're trying to overcome it, to overcome everything that you went through. You're trying to process out your struggles when being out. You will definitely think about others in my homeland. They might be my friends, my neighbors, anyone, even the cats in the streets. They're still stuck in this, land of attacks. And you are out trying to live a normal life. I'm talking about the normal essentials life. And let me tell you something that for me, what actually makes it harder that I'm still processing out this, because I still have my trauma in my head. For example, I don't hear the silence in any way. This silence, I don't hear it. Like while speaking with you now, I hear only explosions in my head, which is for me is a big suffer. And during the attacks and during the genocide that is still happening, you can't solve this problem easily. You will still have these panic attacks in your head in whatever shape. So for عقدة الناجي, for the feel of guilt, I think it's with us every time, everywhere we go, until the end of this genocide.
If you had a superpower, let's say, where you could go back in time, you know, where would you go? And would you do anything differently? And why?
Yeah. So if I have a superpower, I will go back to Gaza and visit my uncle and my cousins and hug them for the last time before I leave.
It's Friday morning in late March in Gaza. You are at home with your parents, your brothers and your sisters, even your cousins and extended family. Can you describe the day to me? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? How do you feel?
We're going for a ride to visit Gaza Beach. And then we passed by the falafel shop. We just bought falafel. And then we went back home. And we're having our breakfast now. My father basically is yelling on me because, you know, like I'm usually late. So I'm late. And yeah, now it's the time for Jum'ah praying. So men's went out. And we have in our house our cousins and our aunt. And we're having our Jum'ah cup of coffee. And yeah, that's it. Actually, during my time in the camp, when I lived the last 2 months in Gaza, I was with some of the friends. We were displaced together. And we were having our own snacks and stuff like that. And we were praying Taraweeh together. In that time, actually, it gave me the feel of being with family. And I remember when I left them, on 27th of March last year, the day I went out of Gaza, they all came to me and hugged me at that time, and because I'm gonna leave, and they were like, no, don't leave, please stay with us, you're making the joy here, you're blah, blah, blah. So this feeling means a lot to me. Like to be influencing these people in these tough times in a very nice way, it means a lot to me.
How would you go about explaining to a child what is happening to them or around them?
Yeah.
When they're too young to understand
Yeah.
why two countries or why a superpower is fighting
Yeah.
the Palestinians, for example?
Okay, you basically start with telling them this is a fireworks. Then it ends up that they know exactly what is happening because you can't lie anymore. And you don't have the enough time to explain to them, you know? So children of Palestine are different than any other. They're grown up very fast. They know things that they shouldn't know. They experienced a very tough life that they shouldn't go through. So they're different than any other. So when you talk to them about these things, it's gonna be easier for you because they can see it, they can live it, they can experience it. So they're watching it. So I mean, what is happening now is crazy. Like, you don't think about how can I tell a child as much as how can I save this child's life?
Do you still have hope?
I lost hope in everything. But in Allah, I have hope. That's it. But honest saying, I've lost hope in humanity. I've lost hope in people. I've lost hope in everything. What I wish from the international community is to wake up. But I ask you just to imagine yourself, like in the place of Gaza people, in the place of a father who just seen his maybe kids, beheaded babies. Just imagine yourself in this place and tell me what should happen in this. What exactly should happen? What actually moves you? What touches you? This is what I really want to know from the international community, you know? What moves you? Like literally, what moves you? This is what is happening is crazy. With all endless platforms, with all authority in this world, no one can stop what is happening now. This is crazy. So my call to the international community, just put yourself in the place of Gazan people for 1 second and be honest in it. Like imagine it. Imagine it and be honest in it. And then everything gonna happen. Everything gonna change. Tell me more.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
We were talking about people that you've lost in this conflict or before. Can you tell me about one particular person that comes to mind? Can you describe them to me?
Yeah, I can. So I have so many friends and relatives that they passed away and they martyred. And I think this is what I share with everyone, like from Gaza. In every house, we have someone that we missed. Who comes to my mind? That my cousin. I'm older than him, like 4 years, but he's a very true friend to my father who passed away as well, like before the genocide with 2 months. So Abdul Qadir, his name is Abdul Qadir, he's my cousin, and he was a true friend to my dad and to the family, to my family. And when my father passed away, Abdul Qadir was really, really sad, and he was trying to process out the loss of my father. And I remember that he said, I wish I will meet him one day in the paradise. And when the genocide just started, he said that I feel that I will do it and go and meet him. So in the second month of the genocide, in November 2023, he passed away. He got martyred, he got killed. And he's strong, and I'm very strong when speaking about it because he wanted it. He wanted this, and he's very happy now, and I'm very sure about it. So all good. I'm always says that I have two versions of myself. The version of Nadia version before 7th of October, and the other version like after 7th of October. I used to go to my work. After my work, I used to go to my gym, and then I made it back to the house. I have my lunch. I just make our family, small family vibes, because we're just 3 members, me, my mother, and my brother. And we're watching movies, we're watching and stuff like that. And we go out like by Gaza Beach, we enjoy our time. The life of any normal human being. We're not like attacking, we're not creating missiles, we're not doing any of these things. So yeah, I was a simple person. I'm trying to be this human being once again now. To be honest with you, I'm trying to overcome everything that I went through in Gaza during the genocide. Because when I was in Gaza for 7 months under the genocide, I was trying to be positive as much as I am, and I was not feeling my feelings as they were. And this has actually caused me badly when I went out of Gaza, because I became feeling my feelings. I became like checking the photos I've taken in my phone, and I became like remembering everything that I went through, me, my families, and everything. And I also became like watching some photos of my friends who got martyred. Stop.
My name is Shireen Sabah. I'm Palestinian from Gaza. I'm 26 years old.
What does the word home mean to you?
Home means family for me. As a person who got displaced from Gaza and my family is still there, my siblings and my parents, I feel like home for me means family. And since I'm alone right now and I don't have my family around me, I feel like homeless all the time. I do not belong anywhere. This is the right.
Where is your family right now?
They're in Deir el-Balah. We are from the north, exactly Tufah neighborhood. We got displaced the first 3 weeks of the war, of the genocide, let's say, and we're now displaced in Deir al-Balah. They are now displaced in Deir al-Balah.
Just for a moment, tell me about somebody that you've lost and what made them so special to you. Describe them to me, please.
Okay. In December 2023, we lost my cousin Ahmed. He was 20, and they were trapped in Jabalia. Ahmed was at the same age of my brother Tahir. He's my cousin from my father's side. And he was always around us. He was always there, and he was in fights with his father so that he wants to stay there. Our home was so special to everyone around us that they would just keep hanging out there, and they got so attached. So Ahmed was a part of our family. He was like a brother to me. Although he was like, okay, a relative, but he was a brother to me and to all of us. So losing Ahmed, like all of a sudden, we were all devastated, especially us, because he lived more than he lived in his parents' house. He lived in our house. I used to teach Ahmed when he was in Tawjihi in order to pass his English exam, and he passed it. And I still recall the moment that he brought me like chocolates and stuff, thanking me that I helped him pass this exam, because if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have done it. Ahmed was special. He was determined, and he was thoughtful. He was so kind to others. And losing him was a great loss to our family.
I want you to recall yourself before the genocide and how you would compare yourself with the who that you are today.
I was a simple person, actually. Like, working as a freelancer, and working from home was a pleasure for me, to be honest, because I'm not a people person. And most of the time, I just enjoy my time when I'm home, also with my family. Well, it's different now. It's different because I have a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, and you don't have the luxury to have the simple stuff or do the simple things you liked to do when I was in Gaza. I liked to do when I was in Gaza. For example, I would just for a moment, if I didn't like my job, I would just definitely quit it, you know? But right now, you don't have the luxury to do it, because if I quit my job, I'm gonna be homeless. My family's gonna be homeless, and they wouldn't have enough money each month to get food. So basically, when I was in Gaza, I had the luxury to do everything I wanted. When I'm here, I'm just stuck in being the basic breadwinner and a lot of responsibility.
If you had the power to go back in time, where would you go? What would the moment be? And would you do anything differently? And if you would, why?
I always have that feeling that I'm in a constant state of guilt that I didn't hug my mom well, you know? Like this moment, whenever I recall it, I didn't hug her well. You know why? Because I promised her that you will be in Egypt within 2 or 3 months. I wanted to, me and my sister, we wanted to collect the money in order for them to just leave, but eventually the borders closed. And I couldn't keep that promise. I couldn't hug her well enough for the excuse that we're gonna be together soon. So if I would go back in time, I wouldn't leave Gaza unless I was with my family. I wouldn't leave it unless I was with them.
Kids usually suffer the most in conflict because you cannot explain to them what they're going through. It's how have you dealt with these difficult questions, these difficult situations when you have to explain to children what's happening?
I have a niece, Zain. He was 6 years old when we were displaced. They were displaced with us. And he would constantly ask his mom that, "Mom, why wouldn't I go to the kindergarten?" And she was like, "No, Mom, they're bombing everywhere." And he was like, "They would never bomb kindergartens." Like, he would literally say that. And his mom would just, "No, they do. They do." And we had a relative, all of the family members died. And they had this, I think she was 12 or 11. She was also a kid. And Zain would play with her all the time. When they were bombed, Zain asked about Nisma. And he said, "Nisma was very nice. Why did they kill her?" And we would constantly have to just explain to them that kids would simply be bombed as well, not just grown-ups. He had this idea that they would never bomb children. And eventually, when he grasped it, when there was a near bombing and he had to escape everywhere and just search for his mom, and he once told me that, "Okay, now I understand that they're bombing everyone." That's it. So basically, they understand. They were all grown-ups when they had to live through this war specifically. All the children were also grown-ups because they had to grasp the idea that everyone could die at any moment, even children, which is pretty difficult for a child to grasp death in the first place. So mothers, like my sisters, for example, they always said the truth directly to them. No making sweet talks to them. It's okay.
Do you feel like in the international community, the life of a Palestinian has less weight than others?
Yes. I was in an interview with an Italian journalist, and he would just constantly keep saying the lives of Israelis who were lost in the October 7th, the lives of the Israelis. Why wouldn't you mention the lives of the Israelis, the Palestinians, that were lost during the genocide, which at that time surpassed 30,000 people? Well, and whenever you see news outlets talking about the death toll, they wouldn't just describe it as fact that the Palestinian Health Ministry said kaza kaza, like this, as the number. No, they would say, they said that the number was according to them, or they wouldn't say according, allegedly. They would always just insert words like allegedly and claim that. Why claim? Why would I lie about the lives that were lost? So I know for a fact that the lives of the Palestinians have less worth than any others in this life.
Do you have nightmares?
Yeah, I have nightmares. I have panic attacks. I struggle to be in closed places unless there's a window in front of my eyes that is open. I can't stay in a crowded place for so long because it will basically start feeling that it's a bombing around me. And people are just shouting loud that I can't even hear my own breath. I have nightmares. And I was actually in a therapy session today, and I'm trying to get rid of the feeling of being choked all the time that is stopping me from doing my job, that is stopping me from living the normal life that people live.
Can you tell me about the day that you left your family? Can you describe what the sentiments were like, what the atmosphere was like
Yeah.
before you left, and what they said to you?
Since I left Gaza through Hala, some friends and the company that I'm working with, they helped me leave Gaza. We registered through Hala a month before, and they kept delaying the date. So you actually didn't know when you're gonna travel. So every day you just check the names. If it's your name, oh, you're traveling tomorrow. That's it. So I didn't want this moment to come for my family, choosing me and my sister to travel, because we're the first people that came to their head that we're gonna be supporting them from our staying here in Egypt or any other place in the world, means that we're gonna be supporting them because there's no source of income during the genocide. So the day I left, it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, and my sister, she was in Egypt, my married sister, she was before us. She called us and, okay, Shireen, your names are out. You're traveling tomorrow. And at that moment, I realized that this is the moment I'm gonna leave them. I don't know if I'm gonna see them. I don't know if they're gonna live or not survive. I hugged my mom, and I just kept hugging her until the moment I had to go and get dressed. I was with a family. We were together as relatives. We were 17 members in the same house. I still have a picture of them while I was forcing them to take a selfie. Please take a selfie, because I know one day I'm gonna look at this selfie and tell myself, God, I missed them. But I never realized it's gonna take that long to be distanced or away from each other. So that moment, I tried not to cry. I have that moment where I still recall that I should have hugged my mom more. And while we were going to the Rafah crossing, I was walking with my dad and my sister, and I took a last look at the sea. The sea for me was a refuge during the war. And I loved this place. Even before the war, every single person in Gaza loved that place. So this is what my safe haven and my refuge when I was at my complete despair time. So I took a last look at it, and I knew that it's gonna take a lot more than expected to take another look at it. And it was goodbye. I tried not to cry. I didn't cry. I didn't cry in front of them, of course, but I cried the moment I stepped into the bus. I bursted into tears, knowing that, this is the moment. You're alone right now. That's it.
Do you want to take a minute?
Yeah.
I think we all need to. This is so bad.
So as we can see from the beautiful testimony that Nadi and Shireen gave us, that we are not too dissimilar. We actually share a lot with these people. It's not just suffering, it's not just death, destruction, and despair. They are deeper than that. And of course, why wouldn't they be? They're human beings, and every human being, regardless of race or creed, has a depth to them. And it is very important for us to sensitize ourselves and those around us, to educate ourselves and those around us to that depth. Because if we don't, then people can still get away with calling an entire race human animals. What we're going to talk about briefly now before we go into the Q&A session, next slide please, is the forms of resistance and what they could look like to you and what they do look like in the real world. From parliaments to UFC octagons. Next slide, please. To newsrooms, we see acts of resistance all around us. We saw South Africa sort of be the first country to carry the banner into the international courts about what is happening in Palestine and why it needs our attention. We saw them raise the case in the ICC. And it is because of them, and it is because of their history with colonialism, that they were able to sympathize and understand what the Palestinian people were going through. The same case with Ireland. The Irish people went through what is called the Troubles, which is when they were essentially repelling the occupying force of the British. And they went through a similar sort of plight. So they can understand and they can relate. And it is because of those lessons, because of these lessons, that these two countries are some of the most vocal countries in essentially the Western world, or in political science, as you call them, the global north. We can also see in examples in sports, like for example, Paddy McCrory, who recently had a UFC bout with a former IDF soldier. And as he was fighting, he was screaming "Free Palestine" into the crowd and into his opponent's face, which is also a form of resistance. And it is these different forms of resistance that we really need to understand so that we can ourselves perpetuate them further into the digital media discourse, or even in living rooms where we talk about politics. That is a very sort of favorite pastime for us Pakistanis. And if we channel it properly, some good can come out of it. Mehdi Hasan, for example. Mehdi Hasan used to be on MSNBC, and he was fired because he went against the Overton window of MSNBC. An Overton window is essentially a set of ideas or norms or values that an entity or an individual is allowed to speak about. And he went beyond that Overton window, which essentially led him to make Zeteo, which is his independent news media institution, where he has been pretty exclusively covering the conflict or covering the genocide since the onslaught began. Lastly, obviously, we have millions of people marching in London, not just London, around the world. People who are willing to put their time where their beliefs are, go out into the public, get others to join them, occupy public spaces so that the people in power cannot ignore them anymore. And we see them doing this every day in different places around the world. And it is very important for this public assembly to happen, because without this public assembly, tangible policy changes and even politicians taking notice wouldn't be reality, pretty much. So these are some of the global solidarity movements that we can see. Next slide, please. I personally saw on campus encampments. I saw it in my own university in London. I saw it in University College London. I saw it in King's College. In my university, personally, I saw the encampment. I was part of it for 10 months. It is one of the longest running encampments that they had in the UK. And what resulted from those encampments was not only them standing in solidarity with the pain and the destruction and the suffering, but also celebrating Palestinian culture. I remember on Fridays I used to have class, and there used to be kids. They looked completely different from each other, but they were all praying in front of the encampment. And there were people there, and there was a question and answer sessions, and there was engagement with the material. Nobody was afraid to talk about these things because they were given the space to do so. The other form of solidarity that we've seen is the doctors, not only Palestinian, not only Gazan, but also doctors from the international community with their powerful passports that went to Gaza. No money, no nothing. And they went to Gaza, and they, as you can see, they took care of people who had no other recourse. They amputated without anesthetic, which is an unfortunate reality when you're a Palestinian, because there is no aid coming in, because there is a blockade. But they did what had to be done, and they did their duty well. and they never stopped documenting what they were doing either. There's a very rich sort of database, you can call it, online, where you can see first-hand accounts of doctors performing these surgeries and being there for these patients apart from the Hippocratic oath that they've taken. Sit with them, talk to them, because they see them as human, because that is exactly what they are. They're not a political cause. They also came from a mother. They were also raised by a family. Next slide, please. I think we all know about Hind Rajab's case, a Palestinian girl who was 5 years old. No political affiliation, no nothing. She was traveling with her family, and the car that she was traveling in was first attacked by a shell, the munitions of which originated from the US. 6, I believe, of her family immediately died, and she was left with a cousin of hers, and they called the Palestinian Red Crescent to ask for help. Then the cousin died when they started firing into the car, and she stayed in the car for 3 hours as they kept peppering the car, as you can see, with 335 bullets until she passed away. It is her voice recording now, the call that she made to the Palestinian Red Crescent, that has inspired a generation of artists, a generation of human rights workers, whether they be executives or field officers or what have you. And it is her suffering that has inspired thinkers of this generation and the next. They've made sure her suffering doesn't go in vain, and they're keeping the spirit of her resistance alive with the work that they're doing. Next slide, please. What we can do as individuals, I think, is well documented. But just to reiterate for people who are watching, people who are here, is that the boycott, divest, and sanction movement, the BDS movement, is very much alive, and it's doing very good work. When the McDonald's fiasco happened, where they gave where they were giving free meals to the IDF, the aftermath of that in the international community led to the closure of the vast majority of their branches in Israel. That is a very real impact. That is a very real impact in the capitalist modality we live in, when you stop the flow of money, when you deny your consumerism. And it has very far-reaching effects that in the moment you might not feel or realize, but it butterfly effects into a very tangible global movement where people are now getting together. They're creating apps like the No Thanks app, where you can scan barcodes and you can see which products, which companies, which entities are on the BDS list, and you can avoid them. I was also very pleasantly surprised to come back and see a lot of our alternative colas, for example, Next Cola, for example, they've been taking over the space where people are now sort of moving away from Coca-Cola and all of these big brands, which are now linked to entities in Israel which are perpetuating this violence and this destruction against the Palestinian people. So this is very much alive, and it's very much happening, and it's very, very effective. And I urge everybody listening to take it seriously, to educate those around you. I remember when I came back to Pakistan, I was discussing this with a friend of mine. And my friend, he's very good at what he does. I have to give him that. But he was like, "Mere burger khane se udhar bum pe kya asar aayega?" What is me not eating or denying a burger from a specific eatery? How is that going to stop a bomb from falling in Gaza? And the truth is that it matters. It really does. The industrial complex that they've made, the killing field that they've turned Gaza into, it is all funded by the same money that is funneled from our pockets to theirs. So we need to take it seriously. Apart from that, what you can do, I understand that, situation in Pakistan, for example, or other countries like Pakistan, developing countries, where their economic impact and political clout in the international stage is not as strong. They feel a bit hopeless, a bit powerless. But you wield the power to make a difference in the palm of your hand. You can like, share, subscribe pro-Palestinian voices from the ground. You can perpetuate the messages that the Palestinian journalists are putting out for everybody to see. Legacy media doesn't pick up on any of this stuff until it reaches a critical mass, and that critical mass is produced by all of us working together to share these stories to our individual social media circles and our personal circles and our physical circles. So it's very important to keep this discussion alive because it affects all of us. Every time you take your green passport to an immigration line, they treat you differently. And it's all part of the same discourse that one life is worth less than the other. Which is why this is not just a fight for Palestinian solidarity. This is a fight for all of us. All of us who don't belong in the corridors of international power. And we need to come together to do something about it. Some creators, for example, are Reach Yusuf. He's 16 years old. 16 years old. And he has already provided meals for thousands of people in Palestine. He's putting out messages. He's using the algorithm. He's using their own modalities, their own private entity modalities, for example, Instagram. And he's pushing the message out there for everybody to hear. He's documenting reality as it is. There is no beating about the bush with these people. They are there to make a difference, and they stand with conviction, and they're waiting for you to listen. All of this is available for you to see. I just left 2 of these links. In the comments of this video, I'll leave some more where people can sort of see all of the work that's being done. Next slide, please. So final thoughts. Resistance is not a moment, it is choice made every day. If we just made a choice and then left things as they are, the next day would bring with it a new challenge. So resistance is something that needs to be repeated, reiterated, because if we stop, if the voice weakens, if we don't come together as one, then they're going to win. So what will you choose to do today? That is the question that we all should be asking ourselves as Pakistanis, as human beings, more importantly, regardless of your political affiliation. Next slide. We're going to do the Q&A now with Nadi and Shireen. I'm going to be screening your questions. Few ground rules, obviously. And if you want to ask me a question as well, please feel free. I'll shed as much light as possible on the entire process. But yeah.
Hi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you doing, Nadia?
I'm doing okay. You made me cry again.
I'm sorry. I cried as well. But I think I hit it a bit better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for joining again, obviously. We're going to be taking a few questions. And just, the main purpose I wanted to do the Q&A especially is if people want to ask questions about how they can help, how they can carry the message forward, you would, I think, be better equipped to answer these questions, right? So
Yeah, really. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. I'm going to open the floor. Anybody have any questions? Please feel free.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So my name is Fasaha Chaudhry and I'm a peace advocate. And Palestine issue has been a conflict which is just not about few years ago. It's about a conflict which has root causes to a regional dimension. And I believe that whenever as a peace advocate we have this question arising from a foreign country. Let's suppose I was talking to a person from Hungary. He was a proctor, he was a medical professionalist. And I had an acquaintance with him, and I was talking about Palestine issue with him. So they have this, propaganda built up through media in their head that Hamas is there. So they're killing Hamas. We as peace advocates, we know that non-combatants are there, and killing non-combatants and the women and children, it's against the international law. If even you're killing and targeting Hamas, how are you supposed to kill and target women and children over there? And Nadia, I'm so much sorry for your loss. I am deeply, deeply sorry as a Muslim sister. I feel you so much, and I'm so sorry to hear about your cousins and your all the family members and friends who lost life. We cannot do much for you guys, but deeply what we can do is pray for you, and this is all what we can do and make difference through boycotting and doing BDS. And thank you so much, sir, for coming up from all the way from London and telling us this beautiful, conflict story. And I do agree with you about children being so mature at this age because of the conflict. Because if you're giving your children the education with so sensitivity, and you're giving Palestinian children the education of conflict, that's inhumane. That is like a human animal would do to a children and to a woman. And I cannot comprehend my feeling right now in the words, but I'm deeply sorry for my brother and sisters in Palestine. And I've been to US for a scholarship, and I have met people from Palestine and Israel. They still have this, dilemma in their heads with condemning kind of behavior for each other. And I am deeply sorry for your loss. I don't have any question, I just have words, and I feel like my words or my condolences would make some difference. My voice is shivering talking now, and I'm so sorry, Nadia, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and that's all I can say right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You raised a point about there being a dilemma. Nadia, is it okay if I respond? Okay. So, in the eyes of the international community, there might be a dilemma again because of those narratives, But if you look at it through the lens of international humanitarian law, there is no dilemma. The truth of the matter is, 1,200 people died on October the 7th, and in retaliation, 54,000 people ever since October the 7th. I think we've exceeded that now. That many people, that many Palestinians have been killed in retaliation for the 1,200 to 1,300 people that were killed on October the 7th. There is no equivalence. There is no place, there is no space where you or anybody can justify that there is, a conversation to be had. There is a space where, one side is true in their own way or the other side is true in their own way. There is one objective truth, and that is that this is a genocide. And the sooner that people in the international community come to terms with the fact that this is a genocide, the sooner we can see an end coming to this conflict.
Yeah, because according to their own definition, I do second to that. According to their own definition, genocide is 100 killings per day, and it exceeds more than that, if I'm not wrong. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I do agree with this point, but how do we make them agree to this fact? And there are like facts, and there's this truth
I can
right in front of them.
I can shed some light on that. We can make them agree by saying it so many times that it becomes unavoidable. I want to just give you one example, and Nadia, once I'm done, you can please fill in if I've missed anything. Piers Morgan, we all know Piers Morgan, yes? Piers Morgan's narrative shifted from Hamas has beheaded babies to now agreeing that what Israel is doing is tantamount to genocide. He has come all of this way to now agreeing, even though we've been saying this since the beginning. And that is because, unfortunately, truth, when it comes to politics, depends on the number of people who are saying it. There is no such thing as objective truth because, again, you've heard that victors are the ones who write history, right? The loudest voices are the ones that prevail. We need to be the loudest voice. The voice of reason needs to be the loudest voice. What's happening here today needs to be shared with people. People need to talk about it. They need to talk about the Nadias and the Shireens of the world and the Palestinians of the world who have gone through this. And we need to listen from them. I'm not Palestinian. I can't speak for their experience. I have a unique experience of my own. It is their experience that we need to take, and it is their experience and their word that we need to perpetuate for the world to hear and for the world to see. That is how the truth will be established. Think of it as a project, because it is exactly that. There are two sides. We have to choose which one we belong to, and we have to put our money, our efforts, even the likes and the shares we have on Instagram, where our mouth is. Nadia, would you like to add something to this? You're muted, by the way.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the point you raised up. I just want to say that we're in the stage that the world, today, like, knows and is convinced about what's happening in Gaza. Like, no need to convince anything or to prove to anyone, like, like what is happening. People have become aware of everything because of the point that I've mentioned already in my documentary, that we have endless platforms now. We have endless platforms. We have like a lot of content on social media that I think it's enough actually to use and to convince the world what is happening. And if any entity, they need to be convinced of what is happening, so we don't need their action. Like, this is my simple, answer. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Next question.
Very interesting documentary, if you'd like to call that. It was very moving. Your responses, Ms. Nadia and Ms. Shireen, they really moved everyone. My question is, this is a very long-standing problem. What solution do you see to this? What practical solution? What is the ideal solution? And when do you think that solution is going to materialize?
Shireen, would you mind stepping in for that? Shireen, you're muted, by the way. You're muted. Okay, yeah, go.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for your question, and thank you so much everyone for being here to watch the documentary. Whenever I saw interviews of people asking Palestinians or non-Palestinians, do you condemn Hamas or do you not condemn Hamas? As a starter, you condemn the 75 years or more than 75 years of occupation, disposition, siege, ethnic cleansing. Why are Palestinians expected that they must answer for their resistance, while the world refuses to hold a nuclear armed apartheid regime accountable for war crimes that are actually broadcasted live? Why is my moral clarity is only questioned when I speak as a Palestinian? The solution is very clear: the end of occupation, the lift of the siege on Gaza and the West Bank, dismantle the apartheid system that just only covers for the crimes that the Israeli apartheid is doing in Gaza. That is just suffocating every Palestinian in the territory. The solution is simple: hold Israel accountable for what it did, not as a state under threat, but as an aggressor, as a colonizer, as an occupier, as a violator of international law. The solution as a Palestinian is not the two-state on a stolen land. A stolen place is one, Palestine. That's it. My solution is very clear. It's not charity. It's not aid dropped from airplanes. It's not managing the conflict. The solution is liberation itself. That's it. Liberating the oppressed Palestinians means liberating Palestine and liberating the entire world. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen. Just to add on to that a bit, we've also, as Pakistanis, we've suffered at the hands of coloniality, you know. We suffered twice that I can think of. When Sir Mortimer Durand, he came in and he cleaved our land and made the Durand line with Afghanistan. And what used to be once a very prosperous sort of people who used to go across that border and mingle with each other and call each other brothers, you know, they were then turned into mortal enemies. We also saw that happening on the other end, on the other flank of Pakistan, when Sir Cyril Ratcliffe came in, and he had a mandate for, I think, in a month, where he had to divide up India and Pakistan at the time of partition. And the same thing, and the same entity did the same with the land of Palestine in 1948. So we need to keep in mind that these people, this land, the sacred land, was home to 3 different majority religions for a very, very long time, and they lived in relative peace and harmony. It is only because of external intervention and decisions that were made on behalf of a people for another people that led to, almost 80 years later, this situation that we find ourselves in. So, as Shireen said, being a Palestinian, obviously, there is only one solution, and she's already said it. So, yeah.
Can I add something, please?
Yes, please go.
Yeah. Thank you for this question, actually, Shireen. You answered it very well. But I have an answer also. It's a very interesting question. But what I want to say that we don't have a magical solution to end all of what is happening. No one person does. But what I believe in, any real solution must begin with, recognizing the injustice that is happening. And, restoring people's dignity and letting our voices be heard. This is what you can do. This is what you can do now. You have our voices already. You have many other voices on social media with this endless platform. The content is already there. So not just as a victims, but as a capable, human beings with a dream, with potentials, with rights. So we might not be able to change the global politics. But what we can do now is how we talk about Palestine and how we work to ease the very real pain happening every day to our people, and that happened to us as well. This is my answer.
Thank you for your input, Nadia. It was very insightful. And again, we can only work towards that goal if we if we lend our voices to the cause, if we speak about it, if we spread the words, and we hold those accounts for the atrocities that they've done. Hind Rajab's case, for example, when that call was released, it became a phenomenon. It became a thing that could not be ignored anymore. It's that one girl's life, her family's life, and there have been countless more lives that have been lost, but it is because of that call that was released that the person who was responsible came into the public limelight. I think his name was Benny something. And he's a very vile, despicable human being. But he came to the forefront because people got together and demanded justice and accountability. So we need to keep in mind that these actions that we do, when we join our voices together, they have a very tangible impact on this conflict and on other things as well. You can see it in other aspects of life. It's just our complicity in silence shouldn't be the case. We need to talk. We need to discuss. We need to find out the truth. Next question, please.
First of all, thank you, Nadia and Shireen, for doing this. Your strength and bravery on display, even during this call, is really something extraordinary. I have two simple questions from both of you. The first one, where does this strength come from? Like, how do you have the courage to do this every day? Is it from your family? Is it from your religion? Is it from your ethnicity? Number two, without any preamble, I just want your basic opinion on Hamas, the entity.
Did you hear that, Nadia?
Okay, so
Can you just ask these questions again?
I'll repeat that. First, I would just like to know the source of your strength. Like, where does the strength come from to do what you guys are doing? Is it your religion? Is it your family? Is it your ethnicity? Number two, what is your basic opinion on Hamas? We hear what we hear. I don't want to tell you my opinion. I just want to know what your opinion is.
Okay.
Again, what's my opinion about what? About Hamas entity?
About Hamas. What's the on-ground perception of Hamas with the normal Palestinians? And I think you answered this in the segment as well, where you said normal people, they're not.
Yeah, we're normal people. We're normal people. But again, it's okay if I support Hamas. I'm not here to say that I don't support or I support. I'm here to say that I'm a normal human being. Like, we have so many people that supports Hamas, and we have so many people that they don't support Hamas. But we're speaking as Palestinian. We're not speaking about as Hamas or Fatah or whatever. Like, the Palestinian cause actually started before Hamas. Hamas age is 37 years old. So it's misleading to start speaking about Palestine, or actually to start to speak about Palestine mentioning Hamas, because Hamas is not the Palestinian and that's it. Like, we're speaking about the Palestinian resistance that actually includes Hamas, includes Fatah, includes Jabha, includes all of these entities. So what happened does not happen because of Hamas. And for answering your question, I don't think it's about courage, honestly. It's about necessity. Like, when you lose your home, your people, and you still wake up the next day, you either stay silent and disappear, or you speak so others hear you. For example, I speak because I owe it to those who no longer can. I am trying to be the voice of those who are voiceless. I speak because my silence would only serve the system that benefits from our cause. You know what I mean? So this is actually what made me speaking. And that's why I'm also I'm trying to spread everything happening and to document everything happening on my social media accounts. So my goal has never been to defend or to represent any political party. My voice actually comes from my living experience, from lived experience, not ideology. I speak about people, about loss, dignity, and survivor, and all of these things. And I believe that the world should focus less on labeling us as, Hamas or Fatah or whatever, and more listening to what's actually happening to us. This is what I really wish from the international community.
Perfect. Thank you. Shireen, would you like to add anything, or should we go to the next question?
Yeah.
Please.
My strength actually comes from survival. I mean, like from generations of Palestinians who've lived through occupation, siege, and exile. And they choose dignity over silence. I don't have the luxury of breaking down, so my strength always comes from my people, from my family, from mothers who survived under bombs and still find their way, from children who drew like sunrise on a plain wall. I mean, from the city that is being buried alive, but still find a way to resist. So this is where I get my strength from. And I don't have the luxury to break down. I need to stay consistent. I need to stay powerful. I need to stay strong so that if I ever lose my people who are there, they will have someone to stand up for them. Yeah. And regarding my opinion on Hamas, I mean, like, before we even talk about Hamas, let's talk about the roots that created Hamas. The occupation itself is the root that led to Hamas as a resistance, as a resistance movement to be created in the first place. Hamas is not the root. The root is the occupation and the apartheid and the 75 years of siege and ethnic cleansing and forced displacement from 1948. Was Hamas there? Hamas wasn't there, I think. And during the Nakba, Hamas wasn't there. So, I mean, like, if you're more outraged about how Palestinians resist than by what they must resist, then you're not looking for justice. You're just looking for comfort. It's not about Hamas. It's about people fighting for their freedom under the most violent regimes in modern history. No resistance will ever match the brutality that this system demanded or created. That's my answer. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Shireen. Please.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Gulshan Rafiq from NUST. I really liked the documentary. It was very well thought out and it was very emotional too. I also started crying. So thank you so much for talking to us today. My question is regarding Nadia or Shireen's take on two-state solution. Like, two-state solution has been presented long ago and it sounded fancy to many people, but I have heard from many students from Middle East and Palestine that they don't believe in this paradigm. So what's your take on it? Is it still worth fighting for, or you think that it has doomed? Thank you.
Nadia, you wanna answer first?
Celine, you go, please.
Can you please give me your answer, your question again? My internet wasn't really well.
It's perfectly fine. I want to know your opinion on a two-state solution. You know, like, there has been many solutions presented by international community or the global leaders on international forums about resolving this issue. And there was one solution that was known as two-state paradigm. Like, there should be two different states, one for Israel and another for Palestine. So what's your take on it? Do you think that it has its importance in recent days, or it's doomed? Thank you.
I mean, like, regarding all of the things that happened over the years, we need to be realistic about it. Israel has stolen, let's say, 80% or at least 80% of the Palestinian lands over the years. And it has been continually happen. And the two-state solution has been presented even after the Nakba. So if Israel wanted to commit to this two-state solution, it would have been committed, like, it would have been done long ago, like 50 years ago. Israel refused it at that time, where it acquiesced, like, it had, like, let's say 50% of the Palestinian lands. Now it has like at least 80% of the Palestinian lands. Do you think Israel will approve the two-state solution and having an independent state for the Palestinians themselves? I think there is no two-state solution when one state has all the powers, you know, because if I do know that, and I've heard it in the news and I've read in articles that if Israel approved the two-state solution, the Palestinians will be unarmed. They will have a state. They will have like their own lands, but they will not be armed. How would you consider that an independent state? Where's the independency in that? So you cannot create justice out of injustice itself. So it's injustice to give the Palestinians a small piece of land and just give away the rest of it to Israel and then tell them we're going to live in peace in two-state solutions, in two states, away from each other, but you will be unarmed, you will have no rights, you will have no dignity, but we will have all the power. You will be in a prison. That's it. They're not creating a Palestinian state. They're creating a prison for the Palestinians themselves. So no, I honestly don't believe in the two-state solution that the world is still presenting and still talking about it, because it's not a two-state solution. It's unequal. We need to end the occupation and the apartheid. That's it.
Yeah. Nadia, would you like to add?
Yeah, actually, the idea of two-state solution feels, it feels more like a concept that people outside the region still believe in. But on the ground, like that, it's totally different. Like what's happening now, the destruction, the displacement, the dehumanization, like everything is happening. It's like it does not reflect any intention for peace, as simple as that. So it's hard to talk about political solution when people are struggling just to survive, just to eat, just to have water, just to have medicine, just to live the normal life that you guys are living now, the essentials again. So before we speak about states, we again need to talk about injustice, safety, and like the basic dignity for Palestinians. So please give me all of these, then I'm okay with the state, like with a two-state solution. I will be totally okay. Wallahi.
Just to sort of add on to this, very recently a documentary came out by Louis Theroux, The Settlers. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. And you can see the project of colonial settlement that they're undertaking in the West Bank. You can see how blatant they are with their absolute disregard for Palestinian identity, their homeland. There was a woman called Daniela Weiss, I think. She was the one who's been leading the charge in, I think, 22 settlements that they just greenlit, which are against international humanitarian law, by the way, in the West Bank. And the way that she's talking so matter-of-factly about the Israel, not even the Israel, the Zionist right to take this land because it has been promised to them. It completely disregards the fact that there is an entire race, entire ethnicity out there that does not believe in that same mission, because that has been their ancestral land. That is rightfully theirs. So when we bring the two-state sort of proposition into this paradigm, where we haven't even respected the boundaries that were begrudgingly made many, many decades ago, upon which the Israelis kept infringing, we come to a place where now any sentiment for a two-state solution is all but gone. Like they both said, you need basic human rights, and after that you can have a conversation. When there are children who are starving on the ground, when they have gout, when they have distended bellies, and you see them every day on your Instagram feeds, when you have a situation like that, and the oppressor is saying, I remember the oppressor is saying that maybe this blockade is going to be good for them, it'll help them lose weight. Can you imagine talking about starving children like that. And can you imagine the level of dehumanization we have actually normalized, where they can get away with saying something like that? That is where we are now. That is the ground reality of this situation as it stands. So, even as somebody who's not Palestinian, I don't think it's possible. Any other questions?
My first question is about the two-state solution. If this is not the solution, then is a one-state solution? Is that what you're proposing? And if that is the case, then what do you do with these Israelis who are living there? They're fourth generation now living in Israel. Do you kick them out of this place? What do you do with these people, and how do you form a one state? What would be the specifics of that constitutionally or politically, or how do you propose that? And also about helping the Palestinians, because when I talked to the Palestinian ambassador and a few other people, they were all like, even if you want to help them, you can't send in aid. There is no way. And even if you want to buy medicines, you will probably have to buy medicines from within Israel or from Israeli pharmacies or factories in Israel. And so the money might end up with the Israelis in the sense that any medical equipment or stuff will have to be purchased from within Israel. They may not allow it from outside. So what should a person do to help Palestinians, and how to get aid into Palestine?
So just for clarity, the first question is, what is the realistic solution? Is it a one-state solution, and what does that look like to you? I think that's a very geopolitically very complex question. And that's the first question. The second question is, if we want to help, what is the tangible way in which we can help? If there is aid that needs to be sent, what is the modality through which that is done? If it is food, medicine, how do we get that to people who need it in Gaza?
Yeah. So, Shireen, do you want to go?
Regarding your question, if the two-state solution is not, like, what will happen to Israelis? I mean, Palestinians here are not asking to erase anyone. We're asking to stop being erased. This is not about removing Israelis and just throw them out. It's about removing this system of apartheid and domination that they have on stolen lands. What exists today is not coexistence. We're not coexisting with them. They're killing us. They're erasing us. So it's not coexistence. It's one side and one group that has the rights of movement, traveling, borders, protection, food, and everything, while the others are living in rubble, siege, grief, loss. So who is erasing who exactly here? Because what I know from history, in the 30s, when the Jews came to Palestine, the Palestinians hugged them, and they gave them the chance to live in the Palestinians' land. So when they started to think of it as their promised land, and this is our land, they started taking over Palestine with the help of the US and with the help of military that is not coming from them, it's coming from other countries that are supporting them. So a future in Palestine must include equal rights for Palestinians and Jews, but the future cannot be built on stolen lands, military checkpoints, and laws that values the lives of Israelis but does not value the lives of Palestinians. I don't know if you ever watched any documentaries or Instagram videos that really talk about how a non-Palestinian has the ability to just move around Israel the same as he can do freely. But if you are a Palestinian, or if you're a US Palestinian resident, you are controlled by checkpoints, by questions. You're constantly being trapped in places that you cannot move here. You cannot go through this road. Why? Because you're Palestinian. So who's erasing who? the Israelis who live there, they can live in a democratic, decolonized state. We need to live in a decolonized state, not as occupiers, but as equals, if that actually happens. So the question is not what will happen to them. The question is that, will the Palestinians be allowed to live, return, and exist freely in their own lands? This is the kind of question that we need to address. So we're talking about a real problem right now. The existence of the Palestinian people is being erased. So how come we are thinking of Israelis as innocent people who haven't done the atrocities over the entire 77 years? So when they started this, they haven't thought about Palestinians. They haven't thought about their right to exist. They haven't thought about the right to be normal people, to be living in a normal country. So will the Palestinians be allowed to live and return to their homelands that they were expelled from? This is the real question.
Thank you, Shireen. Nadia.
Yeah, I think Shireen answered it already, but actually what came up to my mind when I heard your question, before we talk about the final shape of any solution, we need to talk about ending the occupation, recognizing our rights and repairing generations of injustice. So only then can real solutions happen. I mean, you basically can't ask any oppressed people to come up with a peaceful solution while they are still under siege and under attack and being killed and denied basic human rights. So I just can't think of any peaceful solution. I wish you understand my point.
Just to add on to that a bit, the recently 22 settlements have been approved by Israel for the West Bank. Those are in direct contravention to international humanitarian law, and regardless of the enshrined laws that we have internationally, they keep transgressing on these lands. And there is a concerted project now. The phrase that they use, if you are pro-Palestinian, you're anti-Semitic. Semitic actually means you belong to that region. You are of that region. It is not just a Judeo-Christian thing. It includes Muslims as well, because it's a qualifier for the location, for the region. So when you're saying anti-Semitic, you're actually, clubbing in everything you've said against Palestinians, because they are Semitic people. They historically belong to that land. Like Nadia and Shireen, I'm sure their lineage goes back generations upon generations. And I recall, I think it was Shireen, maybe the initial dispossession happened in 1948, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yes. So we're talking about multiple generations that have been dispossessed of their land. And we're also talking about people who are coming to Israel thinking of it as the next Riviera in the Middle East. Yeah. And these people who have been promised return to the Holy Land are actually European and American people. They have no genetic claim, or they have no ethnic claim, but the fact that they are Jews in America entitles them to go back and claim a house which has been lived in by Palestinian people for generations upon generations. And it's now out of their hands because some sort of Western people decided that they wanted a bit more sun, and they just made their trip down to Israel and they claimed somebody else's house. This is the situation that we're in. When this stops, that is when the conversation could be taken to the next level. This is my personal opinion. You can disagree with it if you want, but I only think that is the way. When the atrocities that have already been done, when they are dealt with, when the people who've done them are held accountable, only then can the buck be moved forward. Do we have any other questions? Yes. I think this will be the last question.
We didn't answer his question. We didn't answer his question about the humanitarian aid, I think.
Oh, yes. Please continue.
Yeah. There are a lot of humanitarian organizations that are working on the ground right now. unfortunately, you cannot get any humanitarian aid to Gaza right now due to the closure of borders. Not any aid can come from outside, but what they have in Gaza right now, they could use. But the starvation already started months ago, and they barely have enough in hand. But I think if you want to help people, please help them financially, directly, contact with families themselves and help them financially, because this is what they need. I mean, if I had like 100 shekels, which is our currency, if I was a breadwinner of a family of, like, let's say 4 or 5 children, if I had like 100 or 200 shekels, they wouldn't get me much right now, but they would give me something to feed my children for a day or two, let's say. So I think for now, the only solution is that you guys help people financially directly, contact the families themselves and try to send them money so that they can buy whatever they can on the ground.
Sajid, let me start by saying that I think I typically try to avoid, looking at the social media coverage of Palestine. And the reason it makes me very angry, it makes me further angry because I can't do much other than just boycotting some of the brands that I know. And it impacts my day. So I typically try to avoid that. But that does not mean that I don't support the fact that I think Palestine should be a liberated state. And I do agree with everything that you said. I just want to sort of share my observation based on my experiences through my travel, and more of an observation and a bit of a question as well. Primarily in Azerbaijan, from a government perspective, I think they do support more Israel than Palestine. And that's not just the government, but also the people as well. In some of the conversations, what I observed, and that conflicts with what you, Shireen, was saying earlier and multiple times about stolen lands. All right, stolen lands. I think the sentiment over there, or the narrative over there, was more on sold land versus bought land than the stolen land. I think the question or the ask that I have for you and for all of us, how can we change that narrative? How can we make sure that people widely understand that that's actually stolen land? Thank you.
Shireen?
My grandparents were displaced from Bettima. Bettima is a small village that is next to Gaza. It's very close, like, let's say 15 minutes or like 17 minutes away from Gaza. That's why they were displaced to Gaza itself. And they started their life, and the children continued their lives in Gaza. So Bettima now is an empty land. They haven't used it yet, but it's considered a stolen land, right? When someone comes to live in Bettima, they will call it another name. I don't know, like, I'm not going to invent names, but they will call it another name, another city. It's going to be another prettier city. And then Israelis will live there and they will start their lives there. They will not tell their children and their grandchildren that this was stolen lands from Palestinian. It was originally called Bettima. They're just going to name it the way it is named and given to them. How can we change this perspective? By telling stories, by asking Palestinians their original stories, where they come from, what they do, what info do they know about their origins, by educating people around you. I mean, you said that you travel so much and you went into a lot of different states. So I think what you can do is educate people around you who have that perspective and have heard it from Israelis themselves. But ask them, did you heard the perspective of Palestinians as well? So, because before the 7th of October, the entire world has been listening to Israelis themselves, and they have not heard the perspective of Palestinians themselves. And that's why when the genocide continued and people actually started to hear the voices of Palestinians and seen the reality on the ground, they started to change their perspective. Why? Because they started to ask questions, they started to educate themselves and the people around them. They have started to hear voices from Gaza itself and from the occupied West Bank as well. So educating yourself and the ones around you is pretty impactful, I think. And I always strive to remind myself that I come originally from Bettima, and that my grandma was forced to leave her baby. My biggest uncle, Muhammad, who passed away before the war, she had to leave him. And I've always kept that story in my mind to just remind myself that my grandparents also been through atrocities that the media doesn't know about. The difference in our days now is that the media knows everything and it's all live streamed. So when I see the reality live streamed, I will talk about it, whether the people like it or not, the people around me like it or not. Whether I heard the Israeli perspective, I should hear the Palestinian perspective as well. So sharing stories and educating the people around you will help a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadia, do you want to add something? Or?
Yeah, actually, thank you for your question. I just need to say that what happened in the past is not just history. So it's the foundation of the injustice again we're living today. I mean, what's happening now is the strongest proof that Palestinians are still rooted in their land. Like, despite being subjected to every kind of, suffering to force them to leave or whatever, they remain. And I believe that people are beginning, to truly understand this. There is a growing awareness today about the real history of Palestine, as what Shireen said. This is my answer to you.
Thank you. There is a question at the back there as well. I think let's make the questions quick, please, because I'm pretty sure Nadia and Shireen have to go back.
My name is Suhail.
We're enjoying it. Please give me more interesting questions.
Okay, never mind.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Suhail. And first of all, I'm really sorry about what is happening right now. And really sorry about what we are doing. We are sleeping and we cannot do anything for you, you sisters. But here's my question. We all know that resistance is carried out in layers. It can be intellectually, it can be politically, it can be a physical war type. We can carry out everything in resistance. So we cannot blame only Hamas for this type of thing. It's okay. We can understand that it is the part of the resistance, but I think the ultimate solution is only in the table talk. So my question is, have you any? Is there any person or leader you can have confidence at him if he has any, if he gives any solution to you, and if he carries out any solution, talking to the other nations and talking to the United Nations or other authorities, they can settle down.
Okay. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you asking if there is anyone or any leader that I have the confidence in that they can change if they, for example?
I think the question is like, if there is a leader who can be a mediator, who can bring both parties to the table, and do you have any confidence in somebody who could play that role?
I mean, if help was ever truly an option, we wouldn't have been left alone all this time.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
No, I don't have a confidence of anyone. I've lost hope in everyone. I'm sorry.
Shireen?
It's not about having like hope in any single leader, because it was never about the crisis of leadership. It was about like having the sovereignty of how can I explain it more? I mean, like, we had leaderships and we already have leadership. We have our official president, Mahmoud Abbas, who has been calling in the UN for several years that the Palestinians have been exiled, besieged, like tortured, you know, all kinds of apartheid things. So we have an official president whose name is Mahmoud Abbas that could negotiate in our name. He chose not to resist or fight in his gun, but he chose to fight with his words in the UN official sites. So the United Nations have been hearing, and they have been placing a lot of hearing sessions to hear what Abbas has to say, but nothing actually happened on the ground. So the problem is that the Palestinian leadership doesn't have the opportunity to sit on one table with the Israeli side to actually negotiate, let's say, a two-state solution.
Thank you.
So that's it.
Just to quickly add on to that, the war that happened exactly almost 50 years ago, when there was an oil embargo, you might remember, that was spearheaded by King Faisal. And King Faisal was a very, very important, very prominent name back then. He was the king of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And he single-handedly convinced OPEC to stop the oil. And again, what talks? Money talks, oil talks, you know, commodities talk. When you stop the flow of oil and you see the price skyrocket, that is what brought everybody onto the table. That is what brought Henry Kissinger, who was a very, very cold, calculating man. That is what brought him on his diplomatic shuttle mission to the Middle East when tensions were at their all-time high. So it needs to, unfortunately, the world that we live in with special interests and with money and capitalism, we've come to a point where geopolitics has become so entrenched with these special interests of these countries aligning themselves with other countries that something as drastic as stopping the oil is unfortunately the only thing, the only avenue that historically has worked in bringing people to the table. Do we have something like that anymore? Unfortunately, we don't. But what we do have that we didn't have back then is individual agency. We have you guys. We have the people watching at home. We have the people who are sharing, liking, and subscribing, all of these voices. Together, all of these voices, they drown everything else out. Because at the end of the day, you people are the ones that keep the engines turning, you know, for capitalism. If you take away your business, if you take away your support from a certain entity, enough pressure can be applied where action is inevitable. So I think we need to recenter the conversation away from all of these useless, very useless leaders. And I studied politics, and I thought, and I really honestly right now think politics is absolutely useless. The only thing that can make change happen is the people right now who care. And if you know somebody that doesn't care, you need to make them care. That's where we can get to a place where we can see the change we want to see in the world. Please, next question. Let's make this a final question.
First of all, I would like to say that I'm very thankful for your experiences that you've shared here today. Over the last year and a half, I've learned a lot about Gaza. I didn't know much about Palestine before then. I knew it was a country. I knew they were under occupation of some sort, but I didn't really know what the people were going through. The last year and a half, I've seen a lot of things on the internet and through talking to people where I've seen the kind of pain you go through every day when you guys are in an active combat zone. But what I personally don't know is what was life like even before the combat started on October the 7th. So what I guess what my question would be is, what is life like for Palestinians when combat lulls down, when it's no longer a hot zone. I'm sure it's not good then, but we don't know much about life for Palestinians when there isn't an active war going on, when they're not actively lobbying bombs at you guys. So could you please share some experiences of the troubles that you had to face before the combat started even?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nadia.
Thank you for your question. So actually, we always say that the life before October 7th was not peaceful as well. If you were watching Gaza news, as what you said, then you know. So it was already a daily struggle, you know, under blockade for over 16 years. Gaza was under siege. No movement or no freedom of movement. You know, like it's barely to have electricity, limited access to clean water, for example, medicine or jobs. So people were also surviving, not living. Let's say that youth couldn't travel like as what they want to. They couldn't dream or build or whatever thing, even before the war. So Gaza was a place for or of a slow, you know, like suffocation, like where every aspect of life was controlled, and you know, like the dignity of like it was something that you had to fight for every single day. I just remember that the last 2 years before the war, like life became more lighter than before. Like we became seeing in your projects, in your restaurants, in your stuff like that, in you what like.
Nadia, we lost you for a second there. I think Nadia is having connection issues.
Many years.
Nadia, can you hear us?
I think Nadia lost connection.
Yeah, I think she did. Okay, Nadia,
Can
you're
you hear
back.
me?
You're back. You're back.
I'm back. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, this is actually my talk reflected on me, like on my cause in Egypt as well. Thank you. The electricity has gone. Okay. So yeah, I was just saying that the life the last 2 years was like, you know, becoming more suitable than before, and yeah, like we became. I mean, Shireen, I don't know if you agree with me, but we became seeing new projects and new stuff like that. New people are like starting to, you know, to do their dreams and to build their own companies and whatever they that. And that actually what made it stronger for us to believe that is what is happening. And, you know, like starting from the 7th of October, it was harder for us because, you know, Gaza became a more beautiful like place than before. We have beaches, we have restaurants, as what I say, we have resorts and stuff like that. So, but for essential life, for the real life, it was not normal life as a human being. Like we barely have electricity, like 8 hours in a day. So we should also mention that. But comparing with the 7th of October genocide, it was a paradise. We were living in a paradise. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Shireen, would you like to share your experience as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say that we were already under siege for like 17 years, let's say. Borders were controlled, movement was restricted. Electricity, we had electricity 8 hours a day and sometimes less. And some places only had 4 hours, like Al-Qarya Al-Badawiyya, I don't know if you heard of it. Yeah, but we lived, you know, we lived despite the siege. We had to live, like, to life continues at some point. If I don't have an electricity inside my house, I would go celebrate my wedding on the rooftop. I would go drink coffee under my olive tree next to my house. So we made a joy out of nothing. But the word itself, siege, some people just consider it as just a normal word, sorry. But siege means you have no freedom of movement, you have no freedom of travel, control over your borders, the airspace, the coastline, the sea itself, like what was I? Okay, yeah, I was saying that the siege itself, the word itself, means no access to medical supplies or clean water or fuel or electricity unless the occupier allows it, unless the Israeli side allows it to enter Gaza. So this is what the real word siege means like. You cannot leave for treatment, to study, or even, I don't know, like go see the relatives or distant family members who are living abroad, because the borders are also controlled. So you're living your entire life in a cage, and that cage is shrinking. And right now, if you measure it, like with the Gaza before and the Gaza now, it is like the Gazans have access to 20% of Gaza right now, or like 30% of Gaza, because the rest of it is they consider it as combat zones, and they just force people to be displaced to other areas close to the seashore. So yeah, it's a collective punishment. It was about collective punishment of the people who were living there. So we had to live, and we had to continue our lives with what we had, because you can't stop at some point. So yeah, we had siege, we had others, but if you compare it to what the genocide is doing to the Gazans right now, the Gazans will consider that what they've lived in this siege for over 17 years as a heaven, comparing to the reality right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shireen.
And it's also good to mention that people of Gaza have always been capable of adapting and creating alternatives. So for example, we used to connect car batteries at home when the electricity was cut off, just to generate some power. And eventually, like, we found ways to buy, for example, at the end, of this shit, we eventually found ways to buy solar panels, or the solar energy system, for example. This is actually became more, common in Gaza as well. So people of Gaza are people of creating alternatives, are people of, they're very adaptable, very capable. But what I wish also from the international community, don't take this for guaranteed. Like, they might not be capable anymore. They might not be adaptable any longer. They might be, for example, they need to be, or actually we need to be, because I'm Gazan as well, we need to be adaptable and capable in different shapes than being under siege and being under blockade and stuff like that. For example, I just want to mention that I became hates when people call me like, Nadia, you are a hero, you survived the war. No, I'm not a hero. I'm not a hero. Actually, I'm lucky enough and I survived the genocide, and that's it. I really want to be a hero, experiencing different shapes, experiencing different forms of my life. Being a hero by graduating from my master's degree, being a hero by traveling the whole world with a freedom of movement. I remember when I traveled to West Bank, my land, Jerusalem, in 2021, it was my first time traveling after 20 years, actually. I remember that when I crossed the borders, the Israeli borders, I was crying like a child that, oh my God, I made it to my homeland, can you imagine that you made it to your homeland? It's your homeland, you should visiting it. But because I was working in an NGO, with Mercy Corps organization, it's an American organization. So I was lucky enough to help me and to, not like any other Gazan, and to make a permit for me to visit my country, Jerusalem, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. And for me, it was a big win. Why not everyone you should ask yourself, why not Palestinians can't move easily? Why not Palestinians can't visit their lands? Why not Palestinians can't have the luxury of traveling, the luxury of the power of movement, the basic human rights? Basic human rights. For me, actually, human rights became a big lie. It is a big lie. We're lying to each other.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Shireen. I think let's do one more question. You guys have energy to do one more? Yeah?
You go with two, yalla.
Okay.
Maybe I have one question. I have time for one
Okay, perfect. Last question, please.
question, and then I'll have to.
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, I don't have any question. Question are asked, and there have been too many questions. I just want to make a promise to my dear sisters and through them to all Palestinians that every child killed in Gaza, every innocent child killed in Gaza, I personally promise that I'll avenge it in any capacity. Through, I don't know which way or in what manner, but I'll pay the Zionists for that. That's it.
Thank you so much for your sentiment. Indeed, we all have to come together. I think it is very important that we come together and we make sure that the lives that are lost, they're not in vain. And some practical steps that we can take, obviously, is our voice. Just to sum this up, Nadia and Shireen, thank you so much for joining us. Just to sum this up, this is where we stand. 55,000 Palestinians have been killed thus far. 17,581 children, 12,048 women. And these numbers are changing, obviously. 1.93 million Palestinians have been displaced, which account for more than 85% of Gaza's population. Approximately 100,000 Palestinians have left the Strip since the onset of the conflict. 170 journalists and media workers have been killed in Gaza, the West Bank, Israel, and even Lebanon since the war began, making this the deadliest period for journalists in the world. This includes figures from how many died in Vietnam, the fall of Yugoslavia, for the past 40, 50 years. This is the most number of journalists that have been killed, which should tell you something. And further, what makes this more damning is that international media is not allowed to go in to cover them. And the only people who are allowed to cover them are the ones whose Overton windows align with those in Israel. And they're sent in as embedded units with the IDF. So basically, there is no truth coming out apart from what is already being seen and shown on the ground. People like Yahya Subehi, who passed away 5 hours after his daughter was born. He brought us images of the carnage there. I followed him as well before he passed away. And he passed away literally hours after his daughter was born. He died in the line of duty. He died to bring us those images. And we must all do our best to remember his name and others like him. Because if we don't, then this doesn't come to an end. It starts and it ends with us. That's pretty much it, I think. And
I just want to add one last thing.
Yes, please.
A lot of people were asking, what can we do for the people of Gaza? What you can do is stop watching in silence. Silence being neutral, and being neutral, it's like a permission for the Israeli army to kill more Gazans. Use your voice like it's your weapon. Disrupt the comfort of ignorance, like educate people around you, educate yourself and the people around you, and refuse to accept the narrative of the medias that seem to strip us from our humanity and our history. We are not a crisis. Palestinians are colonized people fighting for their breath. That's it. Boycott, speak, flood the streets, pressure your institutions, your universities, your governments, shame them, force them to hold Israel accountable for what it did. You know, because Gaza is not just dying, it's being killed. So the question is not saying what I can do, is what I'm willing to do for the people of Gaza. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Shireen. Powerful words. Thank you so much, Nadia and Shireen. Thank you for everybody who joined online and otherwise. And let's keep fighting. Yeah. Thank you.
You guys feel free to follow me on Instagram if you want to know more about what's happening in Gaza. I'm very sad on Instagram. Very positive with you.
I'm going to plug.
You not to see any positive stuff.
I'm going to plug all of your social media accounts in the comments in the live stream video when it goes live. And some of the other people that I got to interview as well. You can see some of the work, the amazing work that's being done. For example, Mohammed Masri, who's a filmmaker, a friend of ours, who we also interviewed. He made a documentary, he made a short film called Not Just Numbers. So I'm going to put links of all of this stuff in a comment below this video. And you guys can take it from there. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Talk to you in a bit. Bye-bye.